Welcome back to the Decidedly Local podcast. I'm Jeremy Evans. Today we're going to talk about events. I am sure this will not be the only episode where we talk about events, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while and wanted to just get a few thoughts out there and make a couple suggestions and then hopefully get some feedback from you, the listener, the resident of our community. So I think everybody knows events are important in a community like Saranac Lake. I can think of at least three reasons for this. There's probably more. One is that they're often used to raise money for a cause or organization. I can think of a bunch of those. The Saranac Lake 3P is one. The Olga Memorial Foot Race is another. Number two, events just give locals something to do. And then finally, in a tourism community like ours, events are an opportunity to attract people from outside the area to our community to spend money. We have a lot of events that happen, and they're run by a variety of different groups. So we've got a lot that are run by nonprofits. We have some that are run by the Chamber of Commerce. We have others run by local governments like the village. And then, I don't know, do we have any? I think we have some events, although it doesn't seem as common, organized by for-profit entities. And each of these events are great in their own way. They're all competing for attention and resources to be successful, and that's okay. But they do take time and money to be successful. For any of you who do volunteer, or get paid even to participate in organizing events, you know how much work they take. And too often, it seems like around here, our events depend on the same group of dedicated volunteers to do amazing things with limited resources. But I want to talk about where we should be headed. And in particular, I want to talk about a few of our larger events first and a couple of our venues. First of all, if we think about Winter Carnival is an event that was originally created for locals, and it still, to the credit of the organizing committee, has that feel. A lot of the events within Winter Carnival are all about us, the folks who live here. Now, obviously, it's grown to the point where it has incredible economic impact. A lot of people come for Winter Carnival. And so it's doing two things at once. And I think it's doing it pretty well, doing those two things pretty well. I'm sure it's a constant struggle for the committee to figure out how to balance those two goals. Can-Am Rugby. Now, Can-Am Rugby keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I've got a pet peeve lately regarding Can-Am Rugby tournament. Not about the tournament itself, but the lack of support it's receiving from the counties. Don't forget that both Essex and Franklin counties collect occupancy tax from hotel and Airbnb stays. And those revenues go back into promoting and marketing our area. And a good event like Can-Am Rugby, attracts a lot of people who spend several days staying in our community, or perhaps in Lake Placid and Tupper Lake. And all those folks are paying occupancy tax for every night they stay. That money is going to the counties, depending on which county their lodging is in. And that money is supposed to go back into promoting the area. Now, Can-Am Rugby has been requesting money from Franklin County for several years. And in some cases, they've been requesting a lot more than they used to. And for whatever reason, Franklin County in particular, I don't know as much about what Essex County has been doing to support the event financially, but Franklin County has been increasing their contribution to the tournament, but it doesn't seem to be commensurate with the impact that the event has, because there's other events around the area that the county gives more money to with less impact. And I hope that as the Saranac Lake community, we can keep trying to make sure that that balance gets rectified. Another one that I am disappointed about is the World Snowshoe Championship that was held in Saranac Lake in, what year was that? 2017, 2016? A lot of fun. For those who are around, you remember that the weather was unseasonably warm, but somehow this community rallied together and made it happen, and it was great. Now, we had the chance to bring it back this year, but we just couldn't get it together. There wasn't the right level of financial support needed to help make the event happen. And so instead, this 4-day event starts Thursday, goes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is happening this weekend in Wisconsin. And I think it's a loss for our community. I wish we had had it. And maybe the next time around we'll be ready. Finally, the Civic Center. I went to a meeting a couple of years ago at the Civic Center where the Civic Center folks were asking for help from other community stakeholders, including the two county tourism, Roost on behalf of Essex County and the Franklin County Tourism Department, for help in attracting events to the Civic Center. This was right after the Civic Center had completed its incredible renovation and held the curling events for the university games. So the Civic Center board and staff have been doing amazing things with this new facility. They've been working to try to get more events in the off season once the ice is gone. And they've been successful, but they were asking for help because they're not experts in attracting and holding events. They are the experts at operating the facility. I think it might be time for Saranac Lake to figure out how to have an events coordinator, somebody who is focused on not running all events, but trying to keep a good lay of the land on all the events that are happening, working to attract new events, the right type of events that have the right benefits to the community. And this is something Tupper Lake has. I don't know, and I'm not sure what happens in Lake Placid. There's Roost and also Orta that work to bring in some big events every year. Actually, I think it's mostly Orta and then private organizations like Ironman and the lacrosse tournament and the horse show. But Saranac Lake doesn't have that. And we have organizations that are trying to put on what are big events for us, but it doesn't seem like we have the same level of interest in supporting those and finding other events to bring to our community. Now, ever since I've moved here, I've heard about how the Saranac Lake Area Chamber of Commerce always used to do so many events. And I hear from people who want the chamber to do that again. Now, I understand that. I can appreciate that. Except when you look at our chamber and the fact that well, right now there's only one employee, but typically they have two employees. And in the past, I have seen those employees helping out at countless events just as a service to the events in our community. And they already have several events they do every year. We just got a chance to enjoy Sparkle Village a couple weeks ago. But our chamber has limited resources in both time and staffing. And if we feel in our community that there should be more events, then perhaps we need to figure out how to help the chamber by giving them more resources. Where could this come from? Well, I can think of two. It could come from Essex County and Franklin County tourism money. But before we decide that we need an events coordinator, what I really think we need is an events strategy. So what this would look like would be getting Roost, Franklin County Tourism, the village, the town, Harrietstown, and other major stakeholders together, maybe some of the major events, some of the major lodging properties, the chamber that I talk about the chamber, and get everybody together and put together a strategy or a master plan for how we want to tackle events in our community. What kind of events we want, what's the ideal time of year for events, what are the goals for these events, how we can support them both financially or with volunteers, with facilities, what's the right fit. Not everything's the right fit for our community, and complete that and then figure out what resources we need to deploy in order to implement that. All right, what do you think? Please share your thoughts with me about events in Saranac Lake, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Again, we'll talk more about this, but I just want to get these thoughts out there and start a conversation. Okay, we'll see you next time.